Today we're going to show you how to lay these beautiful, natural sandstone pavers. They are unique. Every one is different. You may be even lucky enough to find some fossils in some of them. They have rough edges and different thicknesses, so the best way to lay these pavers is on mortar and grouting. We will do this job at Simon and Sarah's place. It looks pretty sad to start with, but the pavers will make a huge difference. First we have to choose the pattern we'd like to use, and there are a lot to pick from. But for this job we're going to use a random pattern. As you can imagine, for a job like this there's a lot of preparation work. But I'm not going to bore you with all the details of what we had to do to get ready. This video is about laying pavers. So let's get started. For this job I've decided to call in the experts. Adrian Fry from Sticks and Stones. Okay, so we've got six, what did you say, six sand?
And one cement.
One cement and the detergent in the water.
Yep. The water. And you always want to keep the mix quite wet.
Yeah, so you never do these on sand or...
Well, if you do it on sand, like any paver, if you lay it on sand, you can't grout it, because if you do, it'll crack out.
The grout will crack.
Yeah, because the sand moves.
Yeah.
It might last 6 months.
Yeah.
Eventually, then one paver will move slightly, and the grout will crack and leave the paver.
Yeah.
Then it will leave the other one, and then you can just pull it out.
Yeah, and you might as well not have it at all.
Not have it at all. Yeah.
Okay, another load.
Yep.
So how do you decide which pavers? Like you said, you start with a big one, and you also...
I always start with the big one because it gives you the most, it starts you off with your levels.
Yep.
The small ones are harder to
get level.
So I generally use the big ones for my levels.
Yep.
And the smaller ones to sort of go in between and meet the big ones.
Okay.
Because the smaller ones are harder to level up. So I'll start off with the big one, and these, especially in here, I'll put another really small one, the 280 by 280.
Yeah.
And they're really hard to level up, so I just generally almost put them in there and wait till I've laid some more, and then
okay.
You can go back over it. And that's the beauty of having a little bit of more of a damp or wet mix, is that you've got a bit of time to go back over it.
Yeah. Okay, just trying to level them all up.
Yeah, so I get it there. You can obviously see that end's high. So again, I'm not going to do it in the corner, back here, to get it down and sort of work around it. And I always try and avoid getting, it's quite easy to start getting stuff up here and washing it down, and I just try and avoid that.
Sorry, you mean...
if the mortar comes up between,
yeah, I
try and sort of keep it clean as we go.
Yeah, otherwise you're doing a lot of cleaning up at the end.
You get water everywhere and it just ends up getting a bit... But if you do get someone, you obviously got to wash it off. So here we're sort of going level across the front of the steps, and then we're running down this way. So you just want to make sure the paver's touching the level all the way. As you can see here, it's a little bit, there's a hole under there, but not here. Yeah. So we're just going to knock it down so that it's touching the whole way. You might, with some of these bumpier ones, sometimes you just need to go across on the corner. Yep. Just to get a more of a true, accurate. Okay. Not that one, 'cause it's all flat, but that's a good way to, sometimes you put the level on there and it's sloping that way, and this side it's sloping this way because of all the bumps. But are you trying to follow a pattern, or is it just completely random? Well, you can follow a pattern. Yeah. But it's better fun if you just... So the rules are, in order to make a nice random pattern, is you've got to try and break up the straight lines as quickly as you can. So I generally don't have a straight line for more than about 2 meters.
Okay.
If you get into 2 meters, you want to try and get one across the end, because
so it breaks it. Yeah. So otherwise you do have lines that just
long lines which are a bit unsightly. You see them. So but you can't help having a few long lines. Because you can sometimes get yourself into a bit of trouble. But you just got to remember to try and break it up.
Break it up roughly every 2 meters. Okay. Which is
before if you can.
Which is almost the size of 2 of the big pavers. Yeah. Okay.
That would be your longest line.
Okay.
And that's all you got to remember really, is just to try and break up the lines.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work along that way first, and then we can come out this way a little bit, just leaving ourselves a bit of a gap for
the wheelbarrow. Yeah, so you sort of said it's best to work away from you, but here, as long as we've got somewhere to get our wheelbarrow through.
The only reason we're starting here is because it's going to give us our lines for the rest of it.
So there's a bit of judgment in that where you start the job.
Ultimately, you'd normally start furthest away
from where you so you're not running your wheelbarrow over the job.
But, I mean, this is the most important bit to get right. This is where they walk down.
Yeah, so you can see this corner's a bit too high.
Yeah.
So just
getting regular to start with.
Might even be a bit low there, bugger.
Yeah, I don't know, if you look at the line, it's quite
high at this end.
By that end, so you might be able to, again, don't push it right on the end.
Yeah, like this.
Back in there and trying to sort of, that's it. That's excellent, just pushing it back up like that. I find it's good sometimes to do that bit of movement to start with and then finish it off if you need to with a hammer, because it's only sort of does the fine adjustment.
Yeah. So even though you want to break the grout line up, you at least they still want to be straight. Yeah. Okay. And I guess because we're looking in through here down this line. Yep. Okay. Need the pavers dry.
Yep.
Yep. And that you can see that it's quite a dry mix.
Yeah, it's just damp. Plenty of cement. And all of that stuff, you'll see it, all that stuff on the top.
Yeah.
You can sort of scoot it along as you go.
Yeah.
But all that stuff, you can just leave it on there, and you'll just see it slightly turn a light grey colour as it dries.
Yep. You're going to sweep it off.
Sweep it off.
Yeah.
And you won't see the brush marks in the grouting either, because that will have set.
Yeah, so we want to just leave that for a while, even the loose stuff.
Yeah. Leave it, you know, for a couple of, or for an hour at least, probably.
Yeah.
And the air will just dry all of that loose stuff off.
Yes.
It'll be easy to brush off. If you brush it too soon, then you'll see the brush marks.
And you'll brush the cement into the pavers.
Yeah. And you can fix the brush marks by going over it again, but obviously
just more work.
You don't want to do that. Here are where you need to pay most attention to.
Why is that?
They just seem to, I think when you're pushing in there, it sort of oozes into the other side and you never get it down well enough, so you need to just make sure there's where they join is nicely pushed in.
It's like what you were saying, like another reason we have to do this on mortar is if you're sitting on sand, the sand moves and cracks the grout.
Yeah.
And now because we've got it on a concrete base and concrete grout, the grout won't crack.
Exactly. Now, and that's the same with any paver. Any paver you use.
Yeah. So if you're going to do a sand-based paving, you probably should have a sand-based.
You need sand in.
In the middle.
And while that's a bit more effort, you know, it's to do all this, once you've finished it, it's water blast it, no ants, no weeds.
Yeah, well that's the one thing with pavers, with sand in between the weeds, controlling the weeds coming up through it.
And the ants.
Yep.
Ants blow it. So yeah, a bit more effort, but long term it's...
Yep. This is the tool. What do you reckon we call these? We don't know what we call them.
Well, it's called a bucket handle.
Bucket handle.
A few names for it. Pointing iron, bucket handle, jointer.
Okay.
But essentially it's the type of joint is a bucket handle.
Okay.
Probably because...
all those little, just to make it a bit easier, and this one's a bit wider than this one for different gaps.
That's it, yeah.
Okay. For a job like this, there could be a lot of cutting, so it's worth hiring a decent concrete cutter, and try and get one with a hose attachment that allows you to put water in and control dust. You can also use a small grinder, but usually they don't come with dust suppression, and sometimes they may not be big enough to cut through the pave. No matter how careful you've been, there's no doubt you'll have to do a little bit of cleaning after the job is finished. This is quite manual, but it's worth doing to get that great finish. And when you've done the cleaning, it's worth getting out the water blaster to give the pavers a really good clean. This will get all those last little bits and pieces off the pavers and give it a great finish. And wow, what a fantastic difference this made. If this video was helpful, you can get a lot more information on our website, completelandscapes.co.nz, or check out other videos on our YouTube channel.